It was a sunny afternoon at the local gym, the kind where people came to sweat, lift, and sometimes just watch others show off. Among the regulars, one man stood out, overconfident, brash, and eager to prove himself. He strutted across the floor like he owned the place, and then he saw him, chucknorris.com/focused, standing in the corner, stretching with effortless control. No cameras, no entourage, just pure presence. The kind of presence that made even the toughest gym-goers pause for a moment. Steven's eyes lit up. This was it, his moment of glory. He walked up, chest puffed, smirk in place. "Hey," he called, loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. "I bet I can take you in a fight." The gym went silent. Weights clanged, treadmills hummed, but all attention turned to this audacious young man challenging a legend. Chuck slowly straightened. He didn't flinch. He didn't even raise an eyebrow. He simply looked at Steven with that calm, piercing gaze that could quiet a room. "Take me in a fight." Chuck's voice was soft, almost casual, but it carried weight. Every word made Steven feel like the floor might swallow him. "Yes," Steven said, leaning forward, trying to appear confident. "I've been training. I know my moves. I'm fast. I'm strong. I can handle you." Chuck let a tiny smile play across his face, the kind that only legends wear. A smile that said, "You have no idea what you just said." People around the gym started murmuring. Phones were subtly raised, ready to record what was clearly about to become something unforgettable. The air was thick with anticipation. And in that moment, Steven had no idea. No idea that his bold challenge had just sealed his fate. Because when you challenge a man like Chuck Norris, regret isn't gradual. It's instant. Have you ever challenged someone way out of your league? Comment yes or nitrogen monoxide and tell us what happened. The gym had gone completely silent. Every person present felt the tension in the air as Steven squared off against Chuck Norris. Steven's chest heaved with adrenaline, and a smug grin spread across his face. He was ready, or so he thought. "Come on, let's see what you've got," Steven said, bouncing lightly on his feet. He tried to appear confident, throwing a few exaggerated punches in the air, hoping to intimidate Chuck. Chuck didn't move. Not a step. Not a blink. His calm, almost effortless composure made Steven's bravado look childish. "Really?" Chuck asked quietly, tilting his head slightly. "You want to challenge me?" "Yes. I've trained for years. I'm fast. I'm strong," Steven brogued. "I can handle you." The words came out loud, but in Chuck's presence, they sounded empty. The older man's eyes glimmered with amusement and quiet authority. There was no rush, no need to prove anything. Just pure confidence. The crowd started leaning in. Phones were raised, capturing every second. Some whispered, "He doesn't know who he's messing with. That's Chuck Norris. There's no way. This is going to be embarrassing." But Steven didn't hear them. He was too focused on showing off. He lunged forward, throwing a poorly timed jab. Chuck shifted not with force, but with précision deadly. Sidestepped it. The crowd gasped. Steven stumbled slightly. Panic flickered across his face, but he quickly masked it with another jab. Again, Chuck dodged without effort, almost as if he were dancing. A soft chuckle escaped Chuck's lips. "You're fast," he said, his voice calm. "But speed isn't everything." Steven's grin wavered. Sweat began to bead on his forehead. The crowd murmured louder, sensing the tide turning. "Wait!" someone whispered from the back. "He's making him look like a beginner." Steven tried to regain control. He attempted a spin kick, hoping to catch Chuck off guard, but Chuck didn't flinch. He didn't even raise his hands. He simply shifted his weight, and Steven's kick missed entirely. Steven nearly lost his balance. The shock hit him instantly. This was no ordinary opponent. Chuck's calm mastery was terrifying. Every move Steven made was countered with effortless precision. The lesson of the moment wasn't just about skill, it was about underestimating a legend. Steven's overconfidence had led him into a situation far beyond his control. If you were watching this live, comment the city or country you're watching from, and tell us would you have dared challenge Chuck Norris. The crowd's phones continued recording, knowing this was going viral even before the first strike landed. Steven's bravado had faded, replaced by growing fear. He realized, too late, that his challenge had been bold, yes, but dangerously foolish. The tension in the gym was palpable. Everyone could see it. The moment Steven's overconfidence was about to meet the calm, unstoppable force of Chuck Norris, and the audience, watching this unfold, could hardly tear their eyes away. Steven's confidence was starting to waver. The gym felt smaller, the air thicker. Every person watching could sense that the bold challenge he had issued moments ago was about to backfire spectacularly. He tried to mask it with a laugh. "All right, let's do this," he said, bouncing lightly on his feet, fists raised. Chuck Norris didn't move. Not a muscle. His calm presence alone seemed to make Steven's bravado shrink. The crowd held its collective breath. Then, Stephen lunged. A poorly timed punch flew toward Chuck's chest. Chuck sidestepped smooth, precise, effortless. Steven's fist went past empty air and slammed into the floor instead, making a loud thud. Gasps echoed through the gym. Phones shook as bystanders recorded every moment. Steven's eyes widened. "What?" Chuck tilted his head slightly. "Be careful. Speed isn't everything," he said, voice calm but firm. Steven panicked. He threw a spinning kick, hoping to catch Chuck off guard. The move looked impressive in slow motion, but in reality, it was sloppy. Chuck shifted weight, and the kick completely missed. Steven stumbled, nearly falling. The crowd murmured, "This is over. Look at him. He's a pro." You can see the regret already. Steven's confidence was collapsing. He took a step back, breathing heavily. He wanted to recover, to show the audience he was still in control, but Chuck's eyes didn't leave him. Every glance carried authority, mastery, and calm. Then came the first. Strike not violent, not humiliating, but precise. Chuck lifted a hand, gently tapping Steven's shoulder. That single touch sent Steven off balance. He fell backward onto the mat, with a soft thud. The gym erupted. Some laughed, some gasped. Phones recorded it all. Steven's face turned red, part embarrassment, part shock. He scrambled to his feet, trying to act like it hadn't happened. I'm okay," Steven stammered. "Just warming up." Chuck didn't raise his voice. He didn't laugh. He simply nodded, almost as if letting Steven learn his lesson. The crowd was silent for a moment. Then whispers spread. That was so effortless. He didn't even try to hurt him. Steven's regret is written all over his face. Steven's heart pounded. He realized he had underestimated a legend. Every trick he had practiced, every plan to show off, every boast he had shouted, meant nothing. Chuck's calm mastery made it clear that experience always trumps overconfidence. He tried to throw another punch. Faster this time. Chuck caught his wrist gently, twisting it just enough to disarm him without causing harm. Steven stumbled again, barely keeping his balance. It was the moment of instant regret. Steven's bravado had vanished completely. The reality of facing someone like Chuck Norris had hit him like a lightning bolt. What would you do if you were Steven right now? Type "run or fight" in the comments, and don't forget to tag a friend who'd be brave or foolish enough to challenge Chuck Norris. The gym was buzzing now, cameras rolling, whispers everywhere. Steven's friends looked away, embarrassed. The audience laughed softly. Some cheating, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Steven finally stopped. He couldn't. "Keep up." Chuck Norris stood calmly, almost motionless, as if this had all been a casual lesson in humility. And the message was clear. When you challenge a legend, regret comes instantly. Steven was trembling, not with fear alone, but with disbelief. Every ounce of bravado he had carried into the gym moments ago had evaporated, replaced by the cold, undeniable reality. He was facing a master, a legend, a man whose calm presence alone could make overconfidence crumble. Chuck Norris stood perfectly still, arms relaxed at his sides, eyes scanning Steven with measured curiosity. He didn't move quickly, didn't shout, didn't try to humiliate. He simply existed, and that presence was enough to dominate the room. Steven tried to throw another punch, a fast, desperate jab meant to prove he could still fight back. Chuck didn't flinch. He simply shifted slightly, and the punch missed by inches. Steven's momentum carried him forward, and he stumbled, barely catching himself on the mat. The crowd was silent. Some were holding their phones so tight they could barely breathe. Every whisper confirmed it. Chuck didn't even try to hurt him. "You're fast," Chuck said softly, his calm voice cutting through the tension. "But you're letting your mind fight instead of your body." Steven's eyes widened. I don't understand," he stammered. Chuck stepped closer, slow, deliberate, each movement precise, almost mesmerizing. He caught Steven's arm gently, guiding him off balance without exerting force. Then he released him, letting him stumble back, but making it clear every action Steven had taken was under Chuck's control. The lesson was unfolding in real time. Chuck's mastery wasn't about aggression or intimidation, it was about precision, timing, and calm authority. He didn't need to shout, he didn't need to use brute strength. Every subtle movement reminded Steven of his inexperience. "Control yourself," Chuck said, his eyes locking onto Steven's. "You've got strength, but strength without control is useless." Steven's knees shook. The gym felt smaller, the air heavier. Every attempt to act aggressively was met with gentle redirection, making him feel like a novice, and the audience watched, captivated. Some whispered, "He's making him look like a beginner." It's almost like Chuck is dancing, and Steven is learning humility in real time. Steven tried to regain some composure. He attempted a roundhouse kick, fast and flashy. Chuck moved not to attack, but to position him perfectly, redirecting Steven's momentum, so the kick landed nowhere near its target. Steven stumbled again. His heart pounded, sweat dripped from his brow, and his mouth opened to protest, but no words came out. Chuck's calmness was unnerving. He didn't need to intimidate. His presence did it for him. The audience could feel it, too. Chuck controlled the room without ever raising his voice. Every subtle movement, every small adjustment, was a masterclass in calm mastery. And Steven, he finally realized something crucial. This isn't a fight you can win with overconfidence or speed. This is a fight that requires humility, respect, and awareness. If you were Steven right now, would you keep fighting or stop? Comment, fight, or respect. Tag a friend who needs to see how calm confidence beats overconfidence every time. The crowd was now leaning forward, phones pointed at the scene, capturing Chuck's effortless control. Every movement, every gentle redirection, made Steven's initial challenge look almost foolish, but not cruelly so. Chuck wasn't humiliating him. He was teaching him. Steven's chest heaved. He had never felt anything like this. Humiliation, not exactly. Absolutely. And slowly, he began to understand. Chuck's calm mastery wasn't just about fighting it. It was about teaching, about presence, and about humility. The gym held its breath. Steven's confidence was gone, replaced by respect and shock. And in that moment, everyone watching knew the truth. Challenging Chuck Norris was a mistake, but learning from him could be like... Steven's mind was spinning. Every move he had made, every punch, kick, and bravado-fueled lunge had been countered effortlessly. And it wasn't aggression or brute force that had defeated him. It was Chuck Norris' calm, mastery, precision, and experience. He had challenged a legend, and now the consequences were sinking in. For the first time, Steven could feel the weight of his overconfidence. His heart pounded, his palms sweated, and he realized how foolish he had been. The gym, once just a place to show off, now felt like a courtroom, and Steven was the defendant in a case he didn't even know he'd opened. Chuck stood calmly, watching Steven struggle to regain his balance. His expression wasn't angry, nor mocking, just patient, almost teaching, and that was what made it worse. There was no humiliation, no ridicule, just undeniable truth. "You wanted to prove something," Chuck said quietly, "but you weren't ready. That's okay. Confidence is good, But humility saves you from mistakes like this. Stephen's knees shook. He tried to speak, to respond, but no words came. Every thought he had about winning, about showing off, vanished in the shadow of Chuck's calm authority. He had underestimated the legend. That single mistake, thinking he could overpower experience with speed or bravado, was all it took. Regret wasn't just creeping in, it arrived instantly. The crowd around them murmured in awe. Phones recorded, some capturing every stumble, every misstep. The whispers spread. I think he finally realizes that's Chuck Norris for you effortless mastery. Regret is written all over his face. Stephen tried one more desperate punch. Faster this time. Chuck didn't even block. He simply sidestepped, guiding Stephen gently off balance once again. This time, Stephen fell to one knee, breathing hard, faced red not from exertion, but from the realization of his mistake. I shouldn't have challenged you, Stephen muttered, barely audible. Chuck nodded. And now you know. Let that lesson stay with you. It wasn't just about losing a fight. It was about learning something far greater. Humility, respect, and the limits of arrogance. The gym had gone silent. Everyone was watching. Some were cheering, some were shaking their heads in disbelief, and a few were laughing quietly. But all eyes were on Stephen and Chuck, the challenger and the master. Stephen's friend stepped forward, embarrassed. Are you okay? One whispered. He nodded weakly, unable to speak. Chuck offered a small smile, one of respect rather than superiority. It's okay. Every mistake is a lesson, as long as you learn from it. The audience erupted in whispers and claps. Phones recorded, cameras clicked, and the story of Stephen's instant regret began spreading in real time. Have you ever realized your mistake too late? Type regret or learn in the comments, and tag a friend who's a little too confident sometimes. Stephen's face burned with embarrassment. And the lesson was clear, unforgettable. Never underestimate someone with experience, and never let arrogance cloud judgment. By the time he stood up fully, Stephen was no longer the overconfident challenger who had walked into the gym moments ago. He was humbled, enlightened, and forever changed. And the crowd, they were witnessing a masterclass in patience, skill, and quiet authority, the kind of moment that would be shared, remembered, and laughed about 4 years. Chuck Norris had proven one undeniable truth. Regret for overconfidence is instant, but the lesson lasts a lifetime. The gym had gone completely silent. Stephen was breathing heavily, still trying to process everything that had just happened. His face flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and awe. He had walked in, full of confidence, ready to prove himself and now he was humbled, staring at a man whose calm mastery had left him utterly defeated without a single harsh move. Chuck Norris, standing effortlessly, looked around at the crowd. Let's be clear, he began, his voice soft but commanding. This isn't about strength, speed, or even skill alone. It's about respect. Confidence is good, but overconfidence without humility is dangerous. It leads to mistakes like the one you just made. Stephen's shoulders slumped. Every word struck him like a hammer. Chuck didn't need to shout or humiliate him. His calm authority said it all. You see? Chuck continued. It's not enough to know how to fight. You have to know yourself. Understand your limits. Respect others. That's the true measure of strength. The audience leaned in. Phones clicked and recorded every moment. Every word from Chuck felt like a master class. Not just in martial arts, but in life itself. Stephen swallowed hard. He realized something profound. This lesson went far beyond a fight in the gym. It was about humility, patience, and learning from experience. He had rushed in thinking he could impress, but Chuck had taught him, calmly and respectfully, the price of arrogance. The crowd erupted in applause. Some laughed softly, some shook their heads, and others whispered in awe. That's how a true master teaches. I wish I could meet someone like him. What a lesson in humility. Chuck turned to Stephen, his expression gentle. You've got potential. Who's to remember arrogance will always make the mistake look bigger than it is. Humility turns failure into a lesson. Stephen nodded, finally understanding. He wasn't defeated in the cruel sense. He was educated. The lesson was clear, unforgettable, an instant. Have you ever learned a lesson the hard way? Comment humble, or learned and tag someone who needs to see this. Chuck glanced around the gym one last time. Remember this moment, not for embarrassment, but for growth. Strength is nothing without control. Confidence is nothing without respect. And courage. Courage is nothing without humility. The crowd erupted again, recording and sharing every word. Stephen, still flushed but now with respect, raised his head and nodded. The lesson had sunk in completely. Outside the gym, clips began circulating online. Comments poured in from viewers across cities and countries. People were amazed by Chuck's calm authority, Stephen's instant realization, and the way a simple encounter could teach a life-changing lesson. This wasn't just a fight. It was a story of humility, learning, and respect. And while Stephen might have walked in seeking glory, he left with something far more valuable, a lesson that would stick with him forever. Chuck Norris didn't just win a challenge. He taught a world how calm mastery and humility can turn instant regret into lifelong wisdom. By the time Stephen finally stepped back and caught his breath, the gym was buzzing like never before. Phones were raised, cameras clicking, and videos were already being uploaded to social media in real time. What had started as a simple challenge had turned into something much bigger, a viral moment, showing the power of calm mastery, humility, and instant realization. Clips of Stephen stumbling, Chuck's precise and gentle countermoves, and the quiet wisdom in Chuck's words began circulating online. Within hours, viewers from around the world were watching, commenting, and sharing. People laughed, shook their heads in awe, and praised the lesson in patience and humility that had just unfolded in front of their eyes. Stephen, still flushed and humbled, now realized just how serious his mistake had been. He had walked in brimming with confidence, eager to show off, and walked out having learned something far more important than a victory in a fight. He had learned respect for skill, experience, and for the simple truth that arrogance rarely ends well. Chuck, calm as ever, watched the social media storm grow. He didn't boast. He didn't gloat. He simply smiled, knowing that the lesson had reached far beyond the walls of the gym. Millions would see it. Millions would learn from it. Audience reaction. People were commenting from different cities and countries. I'm watching from New York, and I just learned a lifetime lesson in 5 minutes. From London, this is why humility beats arrogance every time. Manila here, that was hilarious, and so true. Instant regret. Memes, reaction videos, and clips of Chuck's calm authority began trending everywhere. Stephen finally walked over to Chuck, extending his hand. Thank you, he said, voice sincere. I've never learned a lesson like this before. Chuck nodded. Remember, it's not about winning or losing. It's about growth, confidence, strength, courage. They all mean nothing without respect and humility. The gym erupted in applause. Cameras clicked. The moment was complete, a viral story, a lesson in life, and a reminder of what true mastery looks like. If you believe confidence is nothing without humility, type respect in the comments. Tag a friend who needs to see this lesson, and subscribe for more stories that inspire and teach life-changing lessons. Stephen's story spread far and wide. People shared the clips in offices, gyms, schools, and online communities. Some laughed at his overconfidence. Many admired Chuck's calm mastery, but everyone left with a lesson. Instant regret is painful, but humility lasts a lifetime. By the end of the day, the simple gym encounter had transformed into a global story. Millions saw how arrogance meets calm mastery, how mistakes become lessons, and how one moment of humility can resonate worldwide. Stephen had come looking for glory. Instead, he left with respect, wisdom, and a story that millions would watch, laugh at, and learn from for years. Chuck Norris hadn't just defended himself. He had reminded the world of a timeless truth. True strength is measured not by what you can overpower, but by what you teach with patience and dignity. And in that, the legend didn't just survive, it taught the world a lesson that would go viral forever.